out of my head, dude.
Yo, let's see some badge. Yo, let's see some badge
Who
work.
are you?
Boys, let's see some badge work.
Do I have to answer to you? You gotta answer to somebody.
So wait, so you guys are just masked? We're just masked up?
Who are you?
Who are you guys?
I don't care, my guy.
You don't care what agency?
You don't care.
Bro, what agency you guys with? Are you guys working for the U.S. government or not?
Back the fuck up.
Can I see some badge work,
Back
sir?
up.
Sir, can I see some badge?
Is the camera on? Is your... Oh, you guys are ruining this country. You know that, right? Liberals already ruined it.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Can we see some badge work, guys?
His property?
Hey, guys.
Liberals already ruined it. No number, no ID, no name.
This is a democratic process. It looks like it. Can we see some badge work?
Already ruined the country.
Hey, man, can we see some badge work before you go?
Tell on yourself, you know that, right?
Can we see some badge numbers?
Hey,
Can you
sorry.
get the plates, bro? Get the front plate.
There is no front point.
Oh, weird.
Oh, so you guys, is this legal? Hey, man, can we see some badge work?
Yeah, can we get your badge number? Here you go, my guy. Oh, you are right. Okay.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, that was a clip of a federal agent basically coming out and saying that, you know, the liberals have already ruined this country, showing that he is the result of a weaponized government working to carry out the political agenda of the president of the United States, of this White House. So first and foremost, what are the legal ramifications of hearing a federal agent come out and say what he just said?
You know, Brian, interestingly, the legal ramifications are, in a sense, less important than the practical ramifications. So this is something that would lead a police department, whatever agency this officer worked for, to probably discipline that officer, maybe even suspend that officer without pay for a period of time. Because I have to tell you, when I heard that officer say liberals have already ruined the country in substance, I can't tell you how that landed with me as a former career prosecutor. I would have to go into court every day and present evidence of what police officers said, how they behaved, how they conducted themselves, including while they were making arrests, because for many years we had body-worn camera in Washington, D.C., where I practiced as a prosecutor. Police officers were required to activate their body-worn camera when they were involved in a potential arrest. So all of that became possible evidence in the case. This is where the practical implications of an officer saying something that is so wildly inappropriate. First of all, police officers are supposed to work in a completely apolitical fashion. That actually wasn't that hard from my experience, because I interacted with police officers every day from law enforcement agencies across the whole alphabet soup of law enforcement in D.C. FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, Capitol Police, U.S. Marshals, Secret Service Uniform Division, Amtrak Police, Metro Police, Smithsonian Police. It goes on and on and on. And of course, the Metropolitan Police Department. Those are the local cops in Washington, D.C. They're under city control ordinarily, except when Donald Trump tries to seize control of the city police department. And Brian, I'm telling you, take this to the bank. I never had a police officer make such an overtly political and inappropriate statement during the course of an arrest, during the course of an interrogation. And here are the practical consequences. And I know, not only because I tried cases to juries for 30 years, but I gave training classes every year to the Metropolitan Police Department about the do's and don'ts of, for example, interrogations, or the kind of things that you can and can't say when you're interacting with somebody who becomes a defendant. Because I would always say, I'm going to have to show this video to 12 citizens, 12 members of the community who are sitting in that wooden box as the jury. And if they see you do something improper, or they hear you say something improper, it's almost like the evidence of guilt is beside the point, and they're going to make decisions based on how you acted, how you conducted yourself as a member of law enforcement. So when I see this kind of overtly political statement, that will endanger successful prosecutions, and it will make a showing even if there is no prosecution. If, for example, there is a deportation hearing for this person, I don't know the exact circumstances of the person who we saw being arrested when the officer made that statement, but it is so devastating to, I think, the legitimacy of law enforcement when you start spouting off political garbage like that, that, I can only hope this person is held accountable for his police misconduct.
So it's pretty clear that anybody who is arrested by these people, specifically these people, their case against the arrestee is undermined by these comments. But what about the broader implications when you have, you have this one guy? To what degree does he speak for the entire federal agent force here? And how could that undermine the broader case against the people who are arrested, incarcerated, prosecuted, or deported by the whole range of the alphabet soup, as you mentioned?
Yeah, Brian, a couple of things to unpack here. First of all, we have a practice and a policy at the Department of Justice, and it covers all of the federal law enforcement agencies, and frankly, it covers MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, as well, that when an officer engages in this kind of misconduct that we saw on that video, we as prosecutors are actually going to be required to disclose in every single case, in every single arrest that this officer was involved in, we're going to have to disclose this misconduct in this one case because it may actually be fodder for cross-examination of a defendant in another case. So, it will impact potentially more than just this one arrest. With respect to whether this officer speaks for the entire, I don't know if this is ICE. I don't know exactly what law enforcement component this officer was assigned to because they don't really show their insignia or their faces these days. But, listen, I always said one bad apple does not spoil the whole bunch. And we often had bad apples in law enforcement. We didn't let them taint the entire law enforcement community because I've always gone on record as saying in all my years working with multiple law enforcement agencies, the vast majority of officers are real protect and serve people. They're doing it right in the street, policing every day. But we do have our bad apples. So I'm not going to say that this one law enforcement officer, should reflect what, the entire agency that he may be assigned to is doing, how they're policing. But here's the thing, Brian. We have seen the reports of them bringing on board all of these folks with, let's just say, questionable qualifications, background, experience. They're throwing bonus money at them. And we know that they're not spending enough time training these people. I mean, before you become a street officer, you go through the police academy for months and months of training. These people feel like 30-day wonders if they're even getting 30 days of training before they're hitting the streets. That's a recipe for disaster. It is a danger to public safety, and it will potentially do harm to legal proceedings, whether they happen to be criminal prosecutions or deportation proceedings.
Glenn, you mentioned that this one federal agent's actions don't represent the whole agency, but the basis on which that federal agent and the rest of these federal agents were hired was to do something very specific that is partisan in nature and is inherently aligned with exactly what that agent said, which is that liberals are ruining the country and they have a political agenda to enact here to quash their influence. And so, in a sense, could you not make the argument that this federal agent's actions were not a bug, they were a feature? This is what this agency is there to do. And you can tell by virtue of how, Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and all of these people speak, what they have said outwardly. ICE and Border Patrol are there to do in the city, and the way that the whole thing has already been politicized. And so could you make the argument that, in fact, this agent's actions and words do represent the entire agency, and this isn't just the case of one bad apple? Really, this is an apple representing the entire spoiled bunch.
Yeah, Brian, don't get me wrong when I use the one bad apple saying, because we have seen, entire rotten orchards with the way these ICE agents have been, just trampling on the due process rights of folks who may be here undocumented, but, the Constitution still applies. Even undocumented immigrants in our country have due process rights. Before an officer can take them into custody, can chase them down, can seize them. Seize is a term of art used in the Fourth Amendment. They have to have requisite evidence, probable cause, or sometimes reasonable articulable suspicion. I don't want to turn this into a law school class. And what judges have ruled, trial court judges and appellate court judges, is the federal agents are running roughshod, violating the constitutional rights of human beings who are in the United States. So I don't want to pretend that this one statement by this officer that was, obviously and overtly political in nature is an isolated incident. I strongly suspect it's not. And don't you think that the tone that is set by Donald Trump and all his impertinent, his dangerous, his demeaning and mocking comments of, among others, immigrants, kind of sets the tone for how law enforcement may be comfortable policing in Donald Trump's America. So, yes, it may be, and it probably is representative of the larger problem, particularly because we've seen the larger problem with our own eyes in the way ICE is out there policing the streets. And we have heard from federal courts, both trial courts and appellate courts, that ICE has been violating the constitutional rights of folks they are seizing.
Glenn, in a different world, the one where you worked as a federal prosecutor for 3 decades, this kind of thing, this kind of isolated incident would be enough to really usher in some major movement. I think it would be naive to assume that hearing one guy say, "Oh, we're doing this because the liberals have ruined the country," that's not going to change anything, even despite all of the attention he's getting right now and how it reflects on the broader group of federal agents who are out there on the streets. Do you think that we've crossed a Rubicon here, and the DOJ and all of its associated agencies are no longer abiding by the same rules and principles of before, and that if they want to come out and say, yeah, we're here to push back against the libs, then that's just how it's going to be, and there's not going to be any recourse? We're just going to have an overtly partisan law enforcement apparatus, and that's just how it's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, we have crossed the Rubicon when it comes to the way that Pam Bondi and Donald Trump's other corrupt DOJ officials have been conducting themselves. I mean, everything that they are doing is politically motivated, and so much of what they're doing is designed to please dear leader, not to remain loyal to the rule of law, the Constitution, or the policies and procedures that govern how all of the Department of Justice, including federal law enforcement agencies, are required to conduct themselves. And let me tell you, Brian, if this had happened in the before times, before Donald Trump and Pam Bondi attempted to destroy the rule of law and the legitimacy of the Department of Justice, this officer would have instantly been referred to Internal Affairs for an investigation. This is a possible civil rights violation. This is somebody who I suspect would have instantly be put on desk duty, if not on leave, maybe paid leave, while the investigation was conducted, and until there was a determination about what kind of misconduct this is and what kind of punishment it might warrant.
Well, of course, we'll stay on top of this issue and the rest of the unleashed federal agencies that are right now roaming the streets of D.C. and Los Angeles. So for those who are watching, if you'd like to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. It is completely free to do so, and it's a great way to support independent media. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.